With this one, like, don't give up is a bad message for this.
Yeah,
movie.
I was like, this one, people are screaming, please give up on this idea.
Give up. Like, go.
Yeah,
Wait,
like,
I don't understand what the theme of this movie is supposed to be.
I don't know either, honestly, because, like, am I supposed to walk away thinking maybe I should shoot my shot with my high school crush? Or is it saying, like, only shoot my shot if I'm going to evangelize to somebody? Or is it saying, like, God's going to give you somebody in your life that's, I think what he's trying to hint at was like the Carla, whatever her name is. I'm so sorry, the actress that actually did the movie, but the script stunk and we don't know your name.
Dearly beloved, welcome to the Unblessed Podcast, where we inquire and exposit the mysteries of that ancient text, that good book itself, the Holy Bible. We are not theologians nor historians. We are but armchair philosophers who spent years in seminary or on a church staff and have since departed to make our own way. We invite you now to read, think, and laugh with us as we dive deep into the denominational doctrines of the divine in the Unblessed Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Unblessed Podcast. My name is Evan.
And I'm Scott.
And we are two
Christian side huggers. Side huggers.
Christian side huggers. Christian side huggers.
We did a little.
I still give a good Christian
surprise.
side hug every now and then.
Yeah? A little side hug?
Yeah. Every now and then.
I felt like that was the standard in youth group days and church days, was the side hug, and you had to master the art of side hugging.
Yeah, for our non-Christian friends who are listening, for our lost friends, a Christian side hug is basically like if you're a boy and you want to hug a girl, you can't hug front to front. That's too sexy.
Front to front, there's too much going on.
Too much
Way
going
too
on.
much.
You've got your parts.
They've
got her
theirs.
parts. Yeah. But a way to hug is both of you have hips, and that's fine. And you can just hug. You can take your arm, put it around.
God allows
there.
hips, but only if they're,
Yeah, only one
can't
hip.
be too
one
hippie.
hip.
Yeah, one hip.
Can't
You
be-
get one.
I don't think there's a way for it to be two hips to two hips, but you can only have it one hip to one hip. And so what you would do is you take your arm and you would cross over to the opposing shoulder behind the back,
Yes.
and then do a nice little squeeze.
Just kind of shoulder, little squeeze.
Shoulder,
Yeah.
shoulder.
Nothing's
Like your
bumping,
pals.
nothing's touching.
Yeah, like you're at a family reunion.
And see, the code, at least in the parts I grew up in, was if you did get a front hug, that meant something. That was
second base.
That was third base for most. But yeah, there was and looking back, part of it seems like appropriate in some cases. I can see why you would want to do that, I guess. But at the same time, you're kind of teaching specifically girls that their bodies are supposed to be kind of hidden away from people and like not to be like seen or engaged with or in any form, like even grazed upon. But
Yeah, I think it did two things. I think it did that, and two, it was something that a lot of like incels got real good at, was the Christian side hug.
yeah. Yeah. It was interesting. I think it got magnified in college when I was part of a Christian college group, because people took their like purity culture to the max, where it was like, you can't even talk to girls unless you have like an intention to marry them. I mean, it was like the dating boundaries were so strict. I remember, like, it was just very much like you shouldn't be talking alone with somebody that's a girl, or anybody really, for any rule, like of the opposite. No alone time. You guys shouldn't like be walking together. That's, you know, a little too much. I think it always got framed as a boy, as a male growing up in this, it was our responsibility to like guard women's hearts. They were always saying like, that was always a phrase. Talking was like, you need to guard their hearts. Like, don't. And the way I always heard it was like, I'm so much of a heartthrob all the time. Everybody wants to be with me. So I need to keep this thing cool on my own, or people are going to sin and fall from God and die.
So I remember thinking about that and being like, because I got like rejected a lot in like middle school and high school. Like, I don't mean to like throw that out there, but like Evan did like swing and miss a lot. And then it was just like, we got to guard these women's hearts. And I'm like, from who?
You're like, mission accomplished.
Like, I feel like I'm doing a great job out here just by, I feel like they're doing a good job on their own from me.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what's that's what's happening.
You
here.
introduced me into the situation, and things actually get better for them because they feel safe.
They've got some kind of Norton anti-Evan virus security software set up, and I cannot get in. But there was definitely that attitude of, if you're alone with a girl, like, better be because you are being married to her, that you want to be married to her, which like made male and female friendships so odd, because like, if you had just a boy and a girl that were just dating, then, or a boy and a girl that were just friends, and all of a sudden everybody was like, ooh, what about them?
Yeah, everybody gets on your back then. It's like, so when are you going to propose to her and like start your family?
Yeah, when are you going to have grandchildren?
It's like, I'm 14.
I am a child. I'm a child myself.
There was always pressure of like, when you start to engage with anybody, then you are responsible for their like emotional well-being, which there's like elements that are true to that, of course. Like, you know, I'm not going to say that you should just step on people, but at the same time, putting this pressure on teens that are just trying to like figure out dating and the world and like just relationships in general. It's like, you don't need to put this pressure on people. Like, are you ready to marry this person after your first date? It's like, or just date, and maybe it didn't work out, and that's like, it's fine, you know, and people can move on, and they're also young. So people make mistakes. Like, cut some slack a little bit. It always felt so high stakes.
I know.
But
every single relationship felt like it felt like it was make or break.
Yeah.
Every single one. None of them ever felt like they were about having fun.
No.
Until I left church.
Yeah, take them very seriously. Like, starting relationships and starting a family is like just like one of the most nerve-wracking, and I don't know what to say. Like, I just feel like they put so much pressure on those topics that it's so easy to psych yourself out. I'm surprised how, for as much pressure was put on me, how I wasn't as afraid of dating as I probably should have been. I don't know. Luckily I had parents, and I had a mom that were very pro dating, which that was probably one thing of my upbringing, not to get too into the psychology, but, my church was a little more conservative, but my mom with dating was like, well, I dated 2 people at once in high school all the time. It was no big deal. We were dating everybody all the time. Like, go crazy. Yeah, she's like, just have fun. And that was the attitude I had with dating.
That was a very similar vibe to what I had with my parents. Was like, just date, figure it out, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I overcomplicated it because I was like, no, I have to date with intention.
Christ wants me to do this differently. Yeah. I was very much the same. I felt like I put a certain spiritual pressure on myself, even like though my parents were, very Christian, and they enforced some rules. I felt like with dating, I was like, I'm going to turn this up to the max. Like they say I can date anybody. Well, I'm only going to I'm going to meet my wife first try. We're going to get married. Like,
I'm going to prove them wrong.
Yeah, mom and dad. I'm going to get married at 15.
I'm going to have 3 kids by 22.
Oh. Well, speaking of high school relationships,
Jesus fucking
couldn't
Christ.
have a perfect segue here. Evan and I watched a movie, and I know we've talked about this. I guess you could say production company. It's called just Christian Movies, and I know we've talked about it in the podcast, but this one is very special. It's called Me and You, Us Forever. And Evan, if you could sum up this Christian movie in one sentence, how would you do it?
Guy doesn't listen to friends and stalks woman.
That's amazing. Perfectly executed. Yeah, let's
say it like
break
this.
this movie down. Yeah.
Okay, so
Go
at
ahead.
the beginning, you get this guy has 2 daughters.
We kind of zoom in on a divorced dad. It's pretty apparent. Like right first 5 minutes, we're alerted that he's been divorced.
Divorced Mr. Sheffield looking dad. And he didn't want the divorce, but she flaunts her boyfriend in front of him all the time. And then he's like, you know who I've been thinking about? My first love. This girl named Mary from high school. And his whole thing is like, if God's loving, why would he make me get a divorce? And so he starts going to this divorce group.
Which I don't know how if I want to know if that's a real thing people go to. I'm sure there's a divorced
there has to be
help group out there. But man, they treat this one like AA, like they're hidden away in a basement, locked away.
There's one woman who's like going through it, and she's just like, my husband cheated on me. He left me with kids. How do I even go on?
She's like on a crisis mode. Like
she's on a crisis, and they're like, that's interesting. Dave, what about your scenario?
Yeah, he's like, I just missed my high school girlfriend.
I've been divorced for 3 fucking whatever years now. And so he goes there, and then he starts talking to this girl named Nikki. Or no, not Nikki. Carla? I don't remember. Some bitch.
Something like that. Some lady.
And he's like, did you ever feel like this? Did you ever like think about your first love after you got divorced? And she's like, well, yeah. And this movie is an hour and a half long, and I swear to Christ, at least 80 of those minutes is him just talking to different people about his high school girlfriend.
Yeah. So this is what's bizarre about this movie is I think the premise itself on a very large scale seems fine. Like someone gets divorced, they kind of remember someone from high school and they want to connect with them again. Like that doesn't seem whatever. That seems okay. I could deal with something like that. But the way this guy goes about it is completely wrong.
So he tells his secretary at work. His best buddy at work, who is just like, Dave. Like he's the most religious out of all of them, I think. And he's like, God doesn't want you to do this. God doesn't want you going up there. Because what eventually happens is he's like, he looks her up on fucking Craigslist, I don't know, and like finds her address. And
this movie is 2008, so I can't remember how he does. It's not Facebook. Yeah. He somehow just finds
Craigslist
that.
was around in 2008.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I don't know how he gets all this information, but somehow he does.
He used the internet in the way that 2008 movies thought the internet could be used.
Let me hack into the library records.
We just pull up the yellow pages, and he pulls. He's like, she still lives in upstate New York. I'm gonna go visit her, and everybody goes, no, don't
do that.
Don't
That's weird.
Do that. Stop acting like that's a good idea. And he continually just like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. It's going to be great. And I think the best part of the movie, because she's married, like that is kind of, I don't know if that's ever confirmed, but like,
it's
like
fairly confirmed. Yeah.
It's fairly confirmed that so it's at least confirmed that she has been married since.
I don't think they could suggest on screen that there's a married woman talking with a man in her own house and without the husband.
But that's the thing. The whole movie's bananas. Like,
very weird.
Yeah. But the climax of the movie really is he takes the plane and he is in this hotel room and he calls his friend Carla that he's basically been floating with. She likes him. He's basically just getting an emotional high off of talking to her. And he's just like, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive by and scout out her routine for the day and just to know tomorrow when she's going to be home.
Pause there. Because Carla, or whatever her name is, she's talking to him on the phone and like definitely hinting that he shouldn't do it. Like she's going.
She calls him a stalker. Like on the
she's
phone.
like, it sounds like you're stalking him. And he replies by going, no, I have to do it this way. I'm just going to hang out by her house and determine her routine. Not stalk her, just hang out around her house and determine her routine.
She goes, well, why don't you just go and just knock on the door? And he says, and I quote, well, what if her husband's home?
Oh, God.
Like, if you have to ask, you're probably not doing the right thing.
And then he also says on top of that, he's like, I want to be alone with her. Like, he doesn't just say like, I want to like bump into her at public. He's like, I want to be alone with her.
I want to be alone with her and I want to talk to her alone. Now, you're probably thinking at this point, okay, so that's the climax. She talks him down. He doesn't do it. You're wrong.
Yeah.
Because he does do that. He gets a sense of when she's going to be home. And then the next day he goes and he knocks on the door. The woman immediately recognizes him. They talk for what seems like an hour.
It's actually the last 20 minutes of the movie. You have to survive the first.
It is truly the last 20 minutes of this fucking movie of him just of you just waiting for him to ask if she's still married.
Yeah, it's so uncomfortable. And the one point of how he shows up to her door unannounced from a different state after not seeing her for basically 30 years. The way this woman opens the door and welcomes him into his house, her house, is uncanny. She just the door flies open. She goes, "Hi, Dave." No, like, "Oh, who are you?" Or "What are you doing here? I don't know who you are." Like, she immediately knows who it is, and immediately right through the door, he's able to come into her house. This is how people get murdered. This is exactly how people get murdered.
And they have what we are supposed to believe is a nice conversation. And it doesn't feel like that because it feels like that actress didn't take those notes and was just like, I'm going to respond the way that I think I would respond to some of this.
Yeah.
In a very like, don't kill me answers kind of way.
She seems like she's trying to, it's like she's realized her mistake and it's a fatal one. And she's trying to just get out of the house without causing any waves. Basically, but
yeah. And so like they have this conversation. He apologized because that's the other thing is throughout this, he's just like, I just want to tell her I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being immature.
So strange.
I'm sorry for, the way that I acted, and his whole hope is that she would, get back together with him or at the very least
leave her husband and start a new life with this guy.
Yeah.
After this.
And she just says like, thank you. I appreciate that. And he was just like, you're the one that got away. And she's like, you blew it, Buster. And then finally they leave. And I should mention this. I can't remember who said it. I think it was Carla, the woman he was talking to, because she was enabling him in all this. She wasn't saying like, up until the end, she wasn't saying don't go. She was just like, oh, that sounds like an interesting idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they have this big fight in the middle of the movie, and she turns around and she's like, well, maybe if she doesn't know the Lord, you can lead her to the Lord. And so at the end of the movie, when he's talking to this woman, Mary, his old high school flame, he's about to leave, and he goes, I was wondering if you know, I just want you to know that I know Jesus, and I think that you should know him too. If you don't. And I think he hands her the Bible. I can't remember the one that.
Yeah, I think he gives her like a small little Gideon's Bible or whatever, but it is.
And she does what we all do when we're given a Gideon's Bible, where we go, thank you.
Thank you very much. And he leaves, and he just gets back in his shitty car.
Gets back in his shitty car on an airplane. And the last scene is him and that other girl in a coffee shop, and it fades to black. And then says, based on a true story.
Okay, that's what I want to talk about, because that blew my mind, and it wrapped the whole movie together for me when it said based on a true story, written, produced, and directed by none other than Dave Christiano. And then suddenly the dots are connected in my brain. So Dave Christiano is the founder and the guy that runs the Christian Movies channel on YouTube that has hundreds of movies. This guy cranks out movies all the time since like 1990 something. He just makes a little silly little movie, and they're very Christian. And why I love this guy's films is that they're so earnest, and they're so there's a sense of hopelessness and talentlessness and just utter disregard for what makes a movie entertaining sometimes.
It's the way that he makes movies is if I played in a Major League Baseball game and I got immediately struck out, and I walked back to the bullpen and I was like, I did a good job out there.
Delusional. Yes.
Fully delusional.
Yes.
It's the height of cognitive dissonance.
And so what makes this so enjoyable for me is that we're watching this man's delusion. Like, we're seeing this whole situation through his eyes and his words in the script. And I think my theory is this is not how any of this went down at all. Like,
no.
What happened is he worked a job, and he definitely had a buddy at work, and he definitely attended a divorce group at a church. I think all those things are true. And I think he had some lady that I don't think the lady he talked with all the time was this attractive. Then I also don't think that they had that many meetings and had that many emotions shared. I think he had probably one awkward coffee date with a woman who's just trying to be nice to him. And she probably said like, yeah, go do that, I guess, if that would help you.
I think
get over.
In reality, he talked to her more than she talked to him.
I think so too.
There's a moment in the movie where he's like, I don't even know what you do for a living. And they've
after
been on,
like 2 dates.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. So like, I think that's a little bit of evidence there.
That's a great point.
He definitely like calls her, because I think the like trip to New York happened.
Oh, I think all that happened. I think he really did stalk this. So like the movie shows him, this is what's creepy about it, is that he flies to New York and then he just stays in a hotel room. He doesn't have like any plan. Like, it mentions that he has family in New York. So I don't know why he couldn't just stayed with like a cousin or an uncle or a parent, maybe. I don't know, but
he's also just weirdly cryptic with everybody, because his daughters are like, oh, you're going to go visit Mama and Papa? And he goes, maybe.
Something like that.
And they kind of like look at each other, and it goes to the next thing. And it's like,
are you going to kill people?
Yeah. Or just like, if you're doing like, I don't know, think like a criminal, like a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
How do other people,
like,
this is what sociopaths do is they disregard everyone else's feelings. They just do what they think is right. And a lot of times that what is right is killing people or
but
stalking people.
why would you be like, oh, something like that, and not like, yeah, for sure, I'm gonna visit Mama and Papa, gonna swing by.
That's the other thing too, is like he could have, yeah, that's a great point. Is that he could have told everybody, I'm just gonna take a trip to New York to visit family. And he could have just finished this unsettled business in a much more private manner. Maybe just like called her and said, like, hey, do you want to get coffee and catch up? And it's been so long. That would have been so appropriate. And then he could have at least like maybe, shoot his shot at the coffee shop in public. That would be fine, I guess, in this situation. But to get a hotel room and stay there and then go to their house unannounced and knock on their door is wild. But I think he did that. And I think he made this movie to try to make it look like and justify and tell his story. Like, to tell people, no, see, what I was doing was I was being good about it. I was being wholesome.
And it says that he and Mary remain friends to this day.
Just
at
friends.
The end. And I don't believe that.
I think he has her contact in his phone, and that's what he means by friend.
I think Mary is definitely his friend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Mary is too, like the way they wrote Mary, where she has barely any personality outside of helping him the whole movie, makes me think she's a fake person.
Now, her last name's Sue.
But he talks most of the movie. That's why I think this is just him trying to retell this, how he got his restraining order from the courts. You see, Your Honor, this is a film I made to explain the whole situation. Perfectly clear. I think the other thing is that's strange that you were bringing up is that this is part of the Christian movie universe, the CMU. And there's not a lot of evangelism in this movie. It's not very Christian. It's very much like this guy just stalking this woman.
The evangelism is him stalking the woman, and then near the end being like, if you don't know Jesus,
yeah,
you should know Jesus. And so I think the worst part of this is just the whole idea that this is supposed to legitimize his whole behavior. Because let's zoom out. This movie is pro-divorce.
It is. Yeah, it starts post-divorce. Yeah.
Well, it's very much just like there's a whole group of divorced people. There's a divorce help group. It's, talking through, different. It's just saying, this happens to people. They're not necessarily bad people that, this happens to. Not everybody who gets divorced is a bad person, stuff like that. It's kind of like, that's if there's a piece, the world's tiniest piece of gold to find in this movie, is that it's the only Christian movie I know of that paints divorced people in a positive light.
I could give a little bit to that.
And that's the thing. That's the only thing. And so that's why I'm saying let's zoom out. And that is one thing that it does, because the rest of it is horrible. The rest of it is him legitimizing stalking someone.
Yeah,
because he made a mistake with his wife that he married, because he married her out of lust. I think they were together. That they talk about being together for only like 6 months or something like that, and then they get married and they have their kids and yada yada yada. It's like it's bananas.
It is very strange, and yeah, the like very shitty evangelism thrown into this movie is what's unique about it compared to the other ones. Because some of the other movies we've watched that are by him are very heavy, just gospel messages. They're just like people preaching at you for an hour.
Yeah, they're very heavy-handed. In some cases, though, those movies, the central character is a Christian already.
Yeah,
that's how
I feel like a lot of his are more about like Christian lifestyles of like,
yeah,
and it's less about trying to reach out to others. It's not like a God's Not Dead kind of movie where like you want to bring your friends to this and in the hopes of like, because that's what some churches do is like they rely on certain movies to like, oh, I'm going to invite my friends over and we're going to watch this and talk about it after Bible study. Like, this is not one of those. This is more like someone's going through something and they're going to watch this.
He has a lot of different movies out there on his channel. One of them is The Unexpected Bar Mitzvah. We might have talked about it on the podcast before. But basically, this Jewish kid turns into this Christian healer.
Yeah.
And it saves this whole synagogue, essentially.
He saves the whole synagogue.
Like, I don't really know another way to say it.
That movie was way too long. Oh
that
my
movie
gosh.
It was a Marvel movie. But like, what was missing from this movie that is normally present, and maybe it's because those movies are Donald James Parker specifically, and this wasn't.
Yes. And if you don't know who Donald James Parker is, you need to know him. Look him up.
You do. Donald James Parker has made some gems out there. If you've been like, boy, I've seen a bad Christian movie, you haven't.
No, you haven't.
You strap in, buddy. Because what normally happens with those is there is a culture topic that they are going to address. There's a tertiary one with Unexpected Bar Mitzvah. It was Harry Potter. With
Gramps Goes to College.
Gramps Goes to College. It was fluoride.
Fluoride in the water.
Fluoride in the water. And so there's always that tertiary topic, and for here that just there wasn't that moment.
No, this one was trying to be, I think, more of a romantic movie. I think this guy saw Fireproof, because I think Fireproof was like the year before this. I want to say
maybe.
It was like 2006 or 7. So I think he saw Fireproof and was like, I'm going to do one but about divorced people, and it's going to pop off. I'm going to get a book deal out of it.
Yeah,
people are going to know my name and what I did to that lady.
He's not going to be a fireman. He's going to be a pencil pusher in an office that sells things.
We don't even know what he really does. Like, he works at a very generic office building, and everyone just says like, you got that big sale, didn't you? He's like, I sure did. Got the big sale.
Big sale. Super
good thing that big sale worked through so you can get that commission check for sales.
Which is why earlier when I was just like his secretary, I guess, I don't know what the fuck her job is.
I think she was his boss.
It could have been.
We don't know.
I never saw her at a desk.
The women don't get any lines in these movies. They are there to just quite literally support Dave Cristiano's goals the whole movie.
Everyone is.
They're props. Yes.
Yeah. Women are props in these movies.
They absolutely are.
Yeah.
I've noticed too that he reuses the same actors for almost all his movies. So you kind of do have this like I don't know, a small universe of like crappy Christian actor movies. So you kind of recognize people. If you watch enough of these like we have, you start seeing the same faces over and over. But
Katie's
this one
mom
was very different.
Katie's mom and Katie have this joke about like how there are only 7 British actors. And like they all show up in everything, you know?
Yeah.
They're like 7 British actors, like I mean, I can't name any off the top of the dome. But they show up in like Downton Abbey, Harry Potter, things like that. Yeah. But with this universe is very much there are 7 Christian actors.
Yeah. 7 mildly attractive to not attractive Christians.
Yeah, mildly is generous.
I live for these movies though. I it's something about the earnestness and the desperation of like you have to get a Christian message across. Like, because in this culture, I lived and breathed this type of culture for a little bit, where it was like nothing's legitimate unless you absolutely make some kind of evangelistic effort. Like if you don't try to evangelize when you're doing something, especially like an art, you are not doing it for the glory of God. So this movie could have, if you take out all the evangelism part of it, it would be the same movie. Like it doesn't add anything to it. It just makes a couple awkward conversations. And
that's what I was about to ask, is like with this Christian movie that we watched, this, I think, is the first one that we maybe have watched that wasn't bad just because of the Christian overtones.
This one had the least amount of just
like that
monologues that were just preaching at you. Like
that didn't help or hurt it whatsoever.
I will say that was refreshing about this movie, is that it didn't have these super long, like, let me explain to you what God did for you right here and now. Like, didn't really have that. It's more.
I'm sorry. I'm very much. This is so bad, and it's so bad podcasting. But like, I'm comparing the movies in my brain of that and Unexpected Bar Mitzvah, because there's a scene in the Unexpected Bar Mitzvah where the kid heals one person, and the guy's like, Can you heal Jenny? She's in a wheelchair. And he's like, I can try. And then the guy runs away and has these squeakiest shoes known to man that they did not edit out whatsoever. He just runs away in what could be the equivalent of clown shoes, ladies and gentlemen.
We repeated that scene like umpteen times at night. But for the record, a difference between these movies, between this one we watched and who we've been talking, the Donald Parker guy. One, that the production value is so different. One's like the Donald Parker ones are filmed on someone's phone. They really are. I'm not exaggerating. Like they're filmed on a phone.
I will say they were filmed on someone's phone. There are usually more locations in which they are filmed.
That is true. He has a little bit more like spice for like, let's make it exciting. Like he had like a small car chase and like people die and like get healed. It's like he tries to make it somewhat exciting for a movie, but the audio in his movies, not to get like a huge nerd on right now, but the audio is so comically bad. I'm not exaggerating, where there will be scenes where the air conditioning is so loud you can barely hear it'll be like, and then they're just like, let's just keep that scene. We'll just keep it.
And then there's obviously like, well, we're in a cafeteria, so we should have other people making noise. And so people will be talking, but then you'll also hear like, what'd you think of the game last night?
Yeah.
And that's been like dubbed over the scene. And so your ears are trying to do like mental chess to figure out what the fuck is going on.
Or it's the opposite, where they are walking into like a baseball stadium and it's like quiet, like just church mice are in there. I mean, it's like, there's no, the audio in those movies cracks me up. Everything is.
The best part about the Donald James Parker is his character is always good at everything.
Oh,
his character is always amazing at everything. He was like, but they can never show it. That's the other thing.
No,
because he like played. He went back to
Gramps
college.
Goes to college. Yeah,
Gramps Goes to College. I would highly recommend it if you have just an evening by yourself,
please,
or with a loved one.
Get in the bathtub,
sit down. Oh my God.
Light a few candles, put on that movie.
Crack open a beer, pour some wine. I really want to watch this movie again, honestly.
Yeah. It's very bad.
It deserves a rewatch because some of it comes out of nowhere. There's a scene where this professor is floating with him and she takes off her jacket and he puts it back on her and is just like, are you trying to tempt me, you Jezebel? Like, it's so
He thinks everybody is trying to get in his pants. He is.
Oh yeah, he thinks everybody's ageist or trying to get his pants. Like, is so. There's such a disconnect from reality. But the thing that I was getting at about him being good, he's good at chess. He's an engineer, yada yada. But I think one of my favorite scenes is how he plays tennis in the movie, and they don't show him playing tennis. They just show his friends watching him play tennis and talking about him playing tennis. And
wow, he's really good.
Wow, get him, Gramps.
Go, Gramps. He always has like Under Armour on too. Like at the end scene, there's like he's walking through. God. It's supposed to be the university like exit, but it's just like a church hallway, like 100%.
It's the like fellowship hall, or it's
and
the,
what
like,
I love is like it's
front
supposed to be this
office.
like hero send off because he's leaving college. He did what
like
he came to do.
8 people.
Well, one, it's like 8 people, and like clearly none of them went to like they're like all in their 40s and like 50s, and there's a couple people like that are actually college age, but the rest are like the church secretary and like the cook.
This movie opens with, is it his buddy or is it Gramps, who is just
it's him and his
lifting-
pastor like working out in the gym. Yeah.
yeah, but one of them is just doing bicep curls for like
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Yep. It's
like,
he had to show off the muscles in the beginning.
it is so, and that's the whole thing. Like, yeah. So sorry, we like got off on.
No, I was just going to tie
college.
this back to me and you and us
Yeah.
and forever. Is these movies are made by absolute narcissists that think everything they do is good, perfect, excellent. Because I think this Dave Christian, it's a different breed of narcissism.
Yeah.
But I think he's still stuck in this universe of like, I didn't do anything wrong. I was always doing the right thing. Blah 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 blah. And
Well, and like historically, like people who think that like they don't have anybody who's telling them, no, you're bad at this. Like there's no one who's like, hey, I don't think you're actually good at this, because one of the worst movies of all time, Manos: The Hands of Fate, was made on a bet.
no
And
kid, I didn't know that.
it was really made on a bet because the guy was like, I bet that I could make a movie and it could be a Hollywood success. And he made it, and it ended up being, as history told,
One of the worst movies.
one of the worst movies of all
Oh, I
time.
love that movie.
One person on that film, I think, worked on another movie like as a grip, like that's, and then they didn't do anything ever again. And so like that's the same thing here, where it's these people, they walked away from this project and were like,
I
knocked
nailed
it out of the park.
Yeah. This
Crushed
guy
it.
is still active. He posts like every, I don't know how often, but it's like recent, as of like
But
months ago.
The difference between Manos: The Hands of Fate and Me, You, and Us Forever is that the director of Me, You, and Us Forever, the producer, the writer, everything like that, will say the reason that it's not successful
Oh God.
is because, of
People hate Christians.
People hate Christians. America's not a Christian nation, yada, yada, yada. Like our values are left behind, different things like that. When in reality, you made a shit movie.
One thing I'm so fascinated by is this has 4.3 million views on YouTube. So it's got a lot of heft to it, like online. A lot of people have seen it. And I would think that a lot of these people are like us and watching this and going, what the hell is this? I love it. But I go through the comments and there are the most wholesome, heart-touching, just
This saved my marriage.
it's unreal. People are like inspired by this movie. And I could see if it was like a Fireproof movie, because I legit think that movie, for as hilarious as it is, I understand why people love it, because it's just,
Yeah.
it's
Because
a movie about marriage
yeah.
getting stronger,
And that's the difference between these two movies. Is I understand what the message of Fireproof is supposed to be. Work it out. That's basically the whole premise of like it like the fireman stuff kind of aside, the like marriage part of it is just like don't give up.
Yes.
But with this one, like don't give up is a bad message for this
Yeah,
movie.
I was like, this one, people are screaming, please give up on this
Please.
idea.
Give up. Like go.
Yeah,
Wait,
like
I don't understand what the theme of this movie is supposed to be.
I don't know either, honestly, because like, am I supposed to walk away thinking maybe I should shoot my shot with my high school crush? Or is it saying like only shoot my shot if I'm going to evangelize to somebody? Or is it saying like God's going to give you somebody in your life that's, I think what he's trying to hint at was like the Carla, whatever her name is. I'm so sorry, the actress that actually did the movie, but the script stunk and we don't know your name.
Yeah, I had it.
I think it was Carla. That sounds
Carla.
right.
It's Carla.
Okay.
It's Carla.
But Carla, like, is it trying to say that you could find your own Carla if you just are, I don't know, God's gonna put them in your life for you, and at least, in hidden ways like that? I have no idea, but like you mentioned, the message is not clear. And so I'm surprised that people are watching this movie and are walking away like this top comment right here. After 30 years in a bad marriage, I reunited with my first love, who had been divorced for almost 20 years. We flew to Paris, France, and exchanged our wedding vows atop the Eiffel Tower. The day after my divorce was finalized with no looking back. We've been married for 21 years now, happily ever after. That sounds like a better movie, first of all, than this movie. But
also, that person who wrote that is at least like 69.
Yeah, they look a little older. And also the math is mathing there. Yeah. But like all these comments, this one hit home for me. This was yet another good movie from David Cristiano. He has a way of creating inspirational movies that feel and look natural.
No, they don't.
Say that. No, they do. Natural people do not act like this at all. These are aliens walking among us.
The way he talks to his daughters is so
creepy,
unnatural.
And yes, it's a hard watch, this movie.
They're just like, Dad, you're just the smartest and the hottest and the best, and you're just you're the best at everything. And you're like, your
just
dick is probably a mile long.
Oh
Dad.
my God!
Like,
oh Jesus! There it is.
It's every like, and I think that's another thing that I hate about these Christian movies is that when there's a teenage girl and a father, the dialogue between them is
he makes it too playful and flirty. Like every time he does these
so bad
father-daughter acting duos, it's like no one like goes back and watches the film and goes like, maybe we should like take another take on this scene here. That's
the thing. These movies do no second draft. They do no second draft of the script. They do no second takes. It is, we have everybody. Charla's got to be at her shift.
They filmed this in a weekend. That's like, for sure.
It is. We can't wait on good weather.
This movie is so. I love it for how weird and bizarre it is compared to the other Christian movies we've watched. Though, like it's a stalker movie. Evan, give me your final thoughts here.
This might be the worst Christian movie we've seen.
Yeah, it was on a different level.
Like in purely because I walked away from Gramps Goes to College knowing what that movie was about. I didn't agree with it. I didn't like it. I thought it was horrible. But like I could tell you that was about the whole message that I was supposed to take away from it is that college is too liberal for Christians. They've abandoned our values. Yada yada yada.
Yep. Evolution is fake. Evolution in the tap water.
Unexpected Bar Mitzvah was about how Jewish people worship the book too much and that they need to be evangelized to, and that Harry Potter is wrong.
And that Harry Potter is evil and wrong.
I could take away concrete things. This, I have no fucking clue what I'm supposed to take away from it.
I'm
lost.
I'm lost after
Help.
this one.
Help.
Yeah, my last takeaway on this is it was one of the more unique ones we've watched from this whole troupe of movies. I can't get over how insane of a decision that is. And
how this is the thing that blows my damn mind. The thing that blows my damn mind is you're watching this movie and you're like, okay, like he's going further with the decision now. He's going further with the decision now. He's going for.
Yeah.
This isn't a documentary. This is a movie. You could have at any point been like, and then he didn't make the decision. He went home. Like, you didn't have to write this.
That's what I think is like, that's what all this ties in, is that because it's based on a true story. I mean, that was like an M. Night Shyamalan ending for me when that flashed to the end.
Oh my God. Maybe the greatest twist in cinema.
I was like, oh, this was a loosely based. I thought it was just like a silly made up Christian scenario movie, which he just got wrong. But I really think this guy got on a plane and went to his ex-girlfriend's house after not seeing each other for 30 years and just walked into her house and made her feel uncomfortable. And then he is trying to justify it in this movie. And I think someone got either physically hurt or murdered in the real world, and it was David Christiano's fault.
They talk about the greatest twists in cinema, and they talk about Rosebud.
Yeah.
They talk about Bruce Willis being
Shutter
dead at the
Island.
end of 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shutter Island. They talk about Fight Club.
Yeah.
Among those conversations deserves to be that Dave Christiano really went to Mary's house.
He went to her house in his 96 Buick.
Oh God, I forgot about the damn Buick.
With dirty rims and tires.
It's the dirtiest car they could
He
have found.
couldn't even get like, I'm not a big car snob. Like something had to like roll up some, but it's like, it looks like just some piece of shit. Like clearly someone's just beat her car, A to
They
B.
didn't even. They didn't run it through a car wash before they took the shot.
It's like there was like bird poop on the side of it. They're like, it's fine. You won't see it on the TV anyway. So, this was one for the ages, Evan. We're gonna have to add some more to the list, but for all you listeners out there, Christian movies, we're subscribed. The Unblessed Podcast is subscribed to on YouTube, and I can't get enough of it. There's enough movies to last you truly a lifetime on the channel, which is the best gift of all, because you can never run out of these silly, stupid movies. But yeah, that's all I got, I think, for this episode and this movie. So I think I've beat this one to death. So
Yeah, same. It has, by the way, 71 1-star ratings on IMDb.
oh, well, to add ours in there as well.
Oh man. Well, thank you everybody so much for listening. Again, that was me and us. Me, us, me
and you.
us.
Us. Me and you. Me and them, and you forever.
Me and
and
you, us forever. We really appreciate you listening. You can find us on social media at Unblessed Podcast or at Unblessed Pod. We really appreciate it. You can also go to our website, unblessedpodcast.com. But without further ado, thank you very much for listening. My name is Evan.
And I'm Scott.
And when faced with the question of whether or not you should go to your long-lost first love's house, always tell everybody you're going to do it and then do it.
Always say in complete detail and specificity. And
Who needs an alibi?